Did you know that there are plants which, according to ancient spiritual traditions, can bring prosperity, abundance, and even energetic transformation to your life? Imagine that Padre Pio, a man of faith and profound spiritual knowledge, firmly believed in the connection that certain plants establish with the spirit. If you wish to attract more well-being and positive energy into your home, this message is for you. Simply by choosing the right plants, you could change the atmosphere of your house, and this is not mere superstition, but an ancient practice that combines natural wisdom with devotion. Padre Pio left us teachings on how to create an environment of peace and prosperity in our homes. Are you curious to learn more? Today, I want to reveal to you the 5 plants you need in your home to transform the energy around you and attract abundance and well-being. These are not just decorations. These plants carry powerful symbolism and have the capacity to impact your life. At this moment, I invite you to write in the comments, Padre Pio, I accept abundance and the spiritual connection of plants. Since ancient times, plants have been valued as more than simple elements of nature. They have been considered symbols of spiritual energies and have played an essential role in many religious and cultural traditions. For Padre Pio, a home should be a refuge of peace and prosperity, a place where energy flows harmoniously and where the divine presence can be felt in every corner. He taught that faith should manifest in every aspect of our lives, including the way we care for our physical spaces. Choosing the right plants was not merely an aesthetic decision for Padre Pio, but an act of protection and a way of filling the home with spiritual energy. According to him, plants can transform energy by absorbing negativity and promoting well-being and prosperity. Some of them carry such strong symbolism that they have been revered in different cultures for centuries. With his profound spiritual insight, Padre Pio supported the idea that cultivating certain plants could attract blessings and strengthen our connection with the divine. A clear example is rosemary, a plant highly valued for its ability to purify the environment and repel negative energies. Rosemary is not just an ingredient for cooking, it symbolizes protection and renewal. Following this philosophy, we can see how cultivating specific plants in our homes can bring prosperity, abundance, and a constant flow of positive energy. The first plant, rosemary, a symbol of prosperity and protection. This plant goes far beyond its use in the kitchen or its pleasant fragrance. Since ancient times, rosemary has been revered across various cultures for its spiritual and esoteric properties. In his teachings on maintaining both physical and spiritual purity within the home, Padre Pio recommended cultivating rosemary to attract good energies and ensure divine protection. In many spiritual traditions, rosemary is regarded as a purifying plant that dispels negative energies which may accumulate in the environment, causing emotional and spiritual imbalance. The spaces where we live and work often absorb external influences that drain our energy and generate a sense of stagnation. Rosemary, with its vibrant energy, has the ability to restore the natural flow of positive energies, paving the way for prosperity and harmony. Moreover, rosemary is also a powerful protector. Padre Pio, ever aware of the spirituality that permeates every aspect of life, understood that this plant could act as a shield against negative influences, providing a sacred barrier of energy within our homes. Placing a vase of rosemary near the entrance of your home or in main living areas can form an energetic barrier that blocks negative vibrations, safeguarding your environment from undesirable influences. In Spanish tradition, and many other cultures around the world, rosemary symbolizes good luck, growth, and abundance. Planting it in strategic locations, such as near windows, can help attract prosperity and financial opportunities, filling your space with an energy that fosters both material and spiritual success. Its fresh scent purifies the air, contributing to mental clarity and well-being qualities well recognized in the use of aromatherapy. In times like these, it is essential to protect your home from negative energies that might be affecting you. Remain vigilant, for the accumulation of such energies can have serious effects on your life. Daily prayer is a powerful tool of protection. Praying every day will create a spiritual shield around you, guarding your life against misfortune. If you seek a spiritual refuge and desire the blessing of prosperity, you can download the devotional book, The Power of Padre Pio. This book contains prayers for moments of need, for those seeking a life under divine protection. Download it now. Available via the link pinned in the first comment. The second plant, basil, the spiritual guardian of prosperity. Beyond its culinary uses, basil holds deep symbolic meaning in Spanish popular tradition and in various spiritual practices. It is seen as a guardian of wealth and good fortune. Padre Pio, in his wisdom, emphasized the ability of certain plants to protect and bless the home, and basil is one of them. Cultivating basil in a potted home not only beautifies your space with its fresh aroma, but also acts as a natural amulet, attracting positive energies and financial stability. By having basil at home, you invite a protective force that ensures financial stability while opening doors to new opportunities. This plant is highly valued for its purification abilities, transforming negative energies that might be blocking the flow of prosperity into abundant, positive energy. If you feel your financial life is at a standstill, cultivating basil could help clear the path and unlock new opportunities. Its presence is also known to promote mental clarity and discernment, crucial traits for making sound financial decisions. Many people believe that keeping basil leaves in their wallets or near important documents helps attract money and prevent unexpected losses. Its spiritual connection with nature makes it a special ally for those seeking to align their lives with the energies of abundance. Caring for basil becomes a ritual that perpetuates positive energy within the home. And remember Padre Pio's teaching: live in harmony with the natural world to receive its blessings. Imagine how gratifying it would be to realize that by simply nurturing a plant like basil, you are also protecting your finances and opening new paths for opportunities. This simple, accessible practice can bring significant rewards, not only in material aspects, but also in spiritual balance. In essence, basil is much more than a kitchen herb or garden ornament. It is a true guardian of abundance, a living symbol of prosperity and protection. If you seek to attract wealth into your life, having a basil plant at home is an excellent way to ensure that the energy of prosperity flows freely and unobstructed. The third plant, mint, a magnet for opportunities and fresh beginnings. Mint goes far beyond being a refreshing herb for teas and dishes. In the spiritual realm, mint is recognized for its ability to attract good opportunities, luck, and renewal. Padre Pio, with his profound spiritual wisdom, always emphasized the importance of being in tune with the divine so that opportunities arrive at the right moment. Mint, with its vibrant and invigorating energy, helps create an environment ripe for new opportunities to manifest. By having mint in your home, you are not only tending to an aromatic plant, you are inviting prosperity and success into your life. In many traditions, it is believed that mint attracts good luck and opens new paths when planted near doors or windows where energy flows abundantly. It acts as a magnet for unexpected blessings. If you are seeking changes in any area of your life, mint can be your ideal ally. Its renewing and fresh energy is perfect for those wishing to break old patterns and make way for new beginnings. Just as mint grows vigorously, it symbolizes the rapid growth and abundance that can also manifest in your own life. Padre Pio always spoke about the importance of remaining receptive to the gifts that life offers. Tending to a mint plant can serve as a daily reminder of this teaching. Its fresh and energizing scent helps maintain an environment full of positive vibrations, fundamental for attracting the best outcomes. Moreover, many believe that mint has the power to clear the mind and stimulate inspiration, helping us recognize opportunities that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. Another crucial aspect of mint is its protective and cleansing power. Across numerous cultures, mint is used in spiritual cleansing rituals to guard against negative influences and prepare the space for new blessings. This cleansing is not merely physical, but also spiritual, removing blocks that could hinder the natural flow of prosperity and opportunity. When the environment around us is free of negative energy, we become more receptive to all the good that the universe offers. Imagine having a plant in your home that not only fills the air with a refreshing aroma, but also works quietly to attract the best opportunities for you and your loved ones. Caring for mint is not just a practical activity, it becomes a ritual of openness to the new. Each time you water it or harvest its leaves, you are symbolically cultivating your own path toward abundance. If you wish to attract more opportunities in love, finances, or your career, mint is an ideal choice to incorporate into your home. The fourth plant, lavender, the emissary of peace and spiritual growth. Lavender is widely recognized for its calming and relaxing properties, but it also plays an essential role in promoting peace, balance, and spiritual growth. In his teachings about harmony with one's environment, Padre Pio stressed the importance of maintaining a serene home where positive energies can flow freely. With its delicate fragrance and spiritual properties, lavender is the perfect choice to bring peace and harmony into your living space. Cultivating lavender at home does more than simply add a pleasant scent. It creates an atmosphere of serenity and rest, helping to alleviate stress and calm the mind. It becomes a true refuge of tranquility and harmony. Beyond being an aromatic plant, lavender has been used since ancient times in rituals of purification and protection. Its spiritual essence allows spaces to be cleansed of negative energies, making way for positive energy to prevail and fostering emotional and spiritual growth. In moments of uncertainty, lavender offers clarity and generates an atmosphere ideal for meditation and connection with the divine. Padre Pio believed that inner peace was essential for spiritual development, and lavender is a plant capable of nurturing that state of serenity. Besides its spiritual qualities, lavender also contributes to physical well-being, improving sleep quality, and creating a restful environment for those seeking a more balanced and prosperous life. By planting lavender in your home, whether in your garden or in pots, you create a corner of peace and protection, a sanctuary where both mind and spirit can find rest and renewal. If you aspire to greater balance in your life, both spiritually and emotionally, lavender is an ideal plant to cultivate at home. It not only beautifies your surroundings, but also emits a gentle, harmonious energy, promoting peace, growth, and prosperity. The fifth plant, jasmine, a symbol of abundance and good fortune. Jasmine, with its delicate and captivating aroma, is widely known for its beauty, but few realize its deep connection to prosperity. Since ancient times, jasmine has been venerated in different cultures, not only for its aesthetic charm, but also for its spiritual properties. Padre Pio, ever observant of how the natural world influences both spiritual and material life, understood the symbolic power of this plant to attract blessings and abundance into the home. Cultivating jasmine at home does more than add beauty and fragrance. It enables the flow of positive energy and good fortune. In various traditions, jasmine is believed to act as a magnet for wealth and success, and it is known to promote harmonious relationships. This plant is closely associated with prosperity, regarded as a symbol of both material and spiritual abundance. One of jasmine's most powerful characteristics is its ability to elevate the energetic vibration of any environment. Its soft fragrance infuses a sense of peace and harmony, which are key to attracting prosperity. In a space where tranquility and balance reign, opportunities flow more naturally, and both material and spiritual blessings find fertile ground to manifest. Thus, jasmine becomes a catalyst, creating ideal conditions for success and well-being. Beyond fostering a prosperous environment, jasmine also brings emotional and mental benefits. Padre Pio always emphasized the importance of maintaining a peaceful mind and heart to receive divine blessings. The scent of jasmine has calming properties that help reduce stress, ease anxiety, and foster a state of relaxation. With a calm mind, one becomes more receptive to the opportunities and positive energies that the universe offers. In the realm of personal relationships, jasmine also plays a crucial role. It is often associated with strengthening emotional bonds and promoting harmonious relationships. Cultivating jasmine at home can improve the quality of interactions with family and friends, creating a welcoming, loving environment. When relationships flow harmoniously, they contribute to prosperity, as a healthy emotional environment naturally attracts more opportunities and positive energy. If you wish to attract wealth, jasmine can be a great ally. Plant it near the entrance of your home or in strategic spots like gardens or near windows. Thus, jasmine will act as a magnet for good vibrations, prosperity, and good luck, while its fragrance fills your home with peace and beauty. Whether you believe it or not, these 5 plants could be the key to transforming your home into a sanctuary of prosperity and abundance. Padre Pio always taught that faith and action must go hand in hand. So, why not start planting these natural wonders today and allow their energy to bring wealth and blessings into your life? The 7 plants to avoid. According to spiritual traditions and Padre Pio's teachings, first plant to avoid, peace lily, a hidden source of financial and emotional blockages. The peace lily is a popular plant in many homes, valued for its elegant appearance and its air-purifying abilities. However, certain spiritual traditions suggest that it can also attract financial and emotional blockages. Padre Pio reminds us that not everything beautiful on the outside is beneficial spiritually. Some plants, despite their external charm, can harbor negative energies. Carla, who always believed that plants harmonize a home, once purchased a beautiful peace lily for her living room, hoping to attract good energy. Initially, everything seemed fine, but over time, she noticed unexpected bills, domestic problems, and a constant sense of exhaustion. After speaking with a spiritually attuned friend, Carla learned that the peace lily, though attractive, could drain the vital energy of a space. Determined, she removed the plant and soon after, she noticed positive changes. Harmony returned, financial issues decreased, and the atmosphere grew lighter. This experience teaches us, not everything beautiful brings blessings. We must be mindful of what we bring into our sacred spaces. Second plant to avoid, ivy, the energetic invader. Ivy is admired for its ability to grow rapidly and decorate gardens and walls. However, spiritually, it symbolizes disorder, chaos, and energetic imbalance. Padre Pio warned that ivy's chaotic energy can disrupt the harmony of the home, hindering prosperity. Marcio, a devout follower of Padre Pio, loved his garden covered in ivy. But as the ivy spread uncontrollably, Marcio faced unexpected expenses, family disputes, and vanishing work opportunities. Heeding spiritual advice, he removed the ivy and soon after, peace and financial stability returned to his life. Thus, ivy teaches us. Sometimes we must let go of what looks beautiful but drains our energy to allow blessings to flow. Third plant to avoid, lucky bamboo, a deceptive promise. Despite its name, lucky bamboo carries controversy in spiritual traditions. It is often sold with the promise of bringing fortune. Yet many have experienced the opposite: unexpected debts, excessive expenses, and lost opportunities. This reminds us of Padre Pio's teaching. True prosperity stems from faith and genuine effort, not from trusting in material amulets. Maria Clara, a devoted mother, placed a lucky bamboo in her home to improve her finances. Instead, her financial situation worsened until she realized that relying solely on symbolic objects was leading her astray. Only after removing the bamboo and focusing on prayer, planning, and action did her life begin to improve. Fourth plant to avoid, cactus, thorns on the path to prosperity. Cacti are loved for their minimal care needs and aesthetic beauty. However, spiritually, their spines symbolize hidden obstacles and barriers to family harmony and prosperity. Padre Pio often spoke of how subtle spiritual blocks can hinder blessings without us realizing it. Anna, a shop owner, decorated her boutique with cacti, hoping for a modern touch. Yet sales declined and workplace tensions grew. After replacing the cacti with sunflowers and rosemary, symbols of prosperity and joy, energy shifted and her business revived. This experience shows that even small environmental choices can open or close the doors to opportunity. Fifth plant to avoid, fern, a symbol of constant drainage. The fern, admired for its lush beauty, spiritually represents continuous energy drainage. Padre Pio warned against allowing anything into our homes that, though attractive, depletes vitality. Luciana, who loved decorating her home with ferns, felt increasingly fatigued despite resting well. Business slowed, and opportunities dried up. After replacing her ferns with lavender and basil, known for promoting positive energy, Luciana's vitality and success returned. Sometimes, removing sources of hidden energy drains is the first step toward restoring abundance. Sixth plant to avoid, bonsai, the prison of growth. The bonsai, despite its symbolism of control and balance, can spiritually represent stagnation and confinement. Constantly trimming and restricting growth, the bonsai becomes a metaphor for suppressed expansion both financially and spiritually. Gabriel, a young entrepreneur, kept a bonsai on his desk, believing it symbolized patience. But his career stagnated until he replaced the bonsai with a free-growing plant like the Amazon lily. Soon after, new opportunities and partnerships blossomed. Padre Pio's wisdom reminds us, to flourish, we must create space for growth, not confine ourselves. Seventh plant to avoid, hydrangea, a beautiful barrier. The hydrangea, with its lush blooms, is often admired, yet it is spiritually associated with sadness, isolation, and emotional blockages. Padre Pio emphasized that joy and openness are essential to attracting divine blessings. Carolina, a plant lover, found herself trapped in a cycle of emotional and financial struggles. At the center of her home's decor was a large hydrangea. Upon replacing it with sunflowers, associated with joy and prosperity, Carolina noticed a shift. Her finances stabilized and her relationships flourished. Sometimes, a simple change in our environment can unlock the blessings we have been seeking. Conclusion: transform your home, transform your life. Now that you know the 7 plants that, according to spiritual traditions and Padre Pio's teachings, can attract poverty and stagnation, it's time to take action. Even small changes in your home's decor can make a huge difference in your financial and emotional well-being. Take a moment today to inspect your surroundings carefully. Identify if any of these plants are present and consider replacing them with species that promote protection, prosperity, and joy. Always remember, spirituality and our environment go hand in hand. By caring for the energy of your home, you prepare fertile ground for blessings to flow abundantly into your life. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share this message, and leave a comment about the changes you intend to make. Together, we can transform our spaces and attract greater prosperity.